Tomorrow's Careers. Presented by the Johns Hopkins University and the ABC Television Network from the studios of WAAM in Baltimore.
Each week, the Johns Hopkins University brings you the highlights of a different career to show you the story of the people who work in it, their preparation and rewards, and an insight into the problems they solve. This week, we bring you the career of the automotive stylist. And here to introduce this week's program is your host from Johns Hopkins University, Lynn Poole.
You know, that was quite a ride, I'll tell you. Before I close the door, I'd like to show you one thing. You know, when this Model T was first built, well, there was one use for it back here. That was a use. At least they had a place for the milk can when you went into town Saturday night. And I'm not kidding when I say I can remember that, too. But, you know, when this Model T Ford was first built 40 years ago, people would have been very surprised if they had told you that a car would be built that would come up only this high. But it was built. This beautiful Thunderbird was built. It's a lot smaller. It's not as tall as that. But it's brand new, a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing called styling. You know, these cars just don't happen. A car like that, or like this, or even a sports car like this. They don't just happen. They come about with a lot of thought and a lot of planning. And that thought and planning is known as styling. 10 years ago, the number of people employed in the styling department of the Ford Motor Company was at an all-time high. You know, they had 50 people, and styling projects were a kind of engineering sideline. But today, there are more than 500 people in Ford's styling department alone, and they're in a hurry to get more people. So there's real careers for a lot of you people in styling. Now, they're not apt to find these people too quickly either, because you'll find out later in our program tonight that the career of automobile styling is a peculiar mixture of talents. Now, our guest this evening, Mr. Gene Bordinat, has this mixture of talents in abundance. Mr. Bordinat is the chief stylist of the Mercury car and one of the assistants of Mr. G.W. Walker, vice president of the Ford Motor Company in charge of styling. Now, styling is a tremendously exciting profession. It's something where you look into the future. Keeps you busy. And Mr. Bordinat has taken time out from a very busy program of looking and styling cars, and he's hard at work designing the car that you will want to buy in 1959. Now, that fact alone should indicate that Mr. Bordinat is more than an artist, a fortune teller, a merchandiser as well. So, tonight, he's going to tell us how he goes about coordinating an entire styling program.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. I'm glad to have a chance to dispel the aura of mystery and glamour which have enveloped the work of the stylist, as one who wallows in pools of exotic pleasure while drawing inspirational doodles which, through some miracle of modern industry, are transformed from sketches into automobiles. Actually, design is a hard-boiled compromise between styling, chassis and body engineering, manufacturing, and finance. It's a patient business approach to the development of something new, fresh, modern, and saleable with more aches and pains than glamour. The American public demands a car capable of carrying 6 passengers of all shapes and sizes comfortably. The automobile that they build will be used on all sorts of roads, performing functions of school bus, baggage car, even a delivery truck. It must be as comfortable as a living room, warm in winter, cool in summer, and it must be weather-tight, but with doors and windows all around. Customers want the ultimate in performance, gauges to tell them what's happening under the hood, and a vehicle which costs next to nothing to operate and maintain. At the same time, management wants a car that will have as many interchangeable parts as possible, one that will justify the $75 million gamble which is made on the salability of an automobile every time a complete body change is made. You know, if you make a big mistake in styling, you're locked in it for years because the industry's production rate and tooling time prohibit complete body and chassis changes each year. Now, resolving all these objectives is a little like making a molehill from a mountain. And when I think of it, I wonder how we do it, but I guess we do. Every year, we put a different car on the market to satisfy the American taste for newness and progress. We accomplish our mission through a lot of hard work, compromise, and imagination. Now, those two words fall rather easily from the lips as compromise and imagination. But you have no idea how many people criticize, insist, object, and differ, and when they do, it's quite legitimate, too, when it comes to transforming a picture into a vehicle, like some of these interior pictures that you see here. For example, engineering tells a stylist that it can't make an adequate grille from the design that they were given. The styling comes back and suggests a way that it can be done. Cost estimators join the fun. They take sides or they do research. Top management comes in to referee and brings in a few ideas of its own. You know, I don't think that any expectant mother ever required so many doctors or specialists or nurses during her prenatal period, nor suffered as much, nor had so many proud fathers if the child were a beautiful success, or as many disowners if the little wonder turned out to be a flop. I wish that I could conduct a kind of retrospective tour to show you the planning, experimenting, and the execution of our 1957 cars. I think it would interest you. But it would also interest our competitors, and as you know, surprise is one of our trumps in automobile salesmanship. This, incidentally, explains the shroud of secrecy which surrounds designing of the new models. However, all cars are designed in the styling department. All these cars that are designed aren't intended for sales. We've produced several models that we call dream cars. Cars like these are way ahead of their time, and some of them are fairly impractical to build or sell on a production basis. But we do get ideas from these dream cars on design features which can be adapted for use in the more practical cars which we will manufacture in the near future. Using one of our dream cars, the XM Turnpike Cruiser, which you see here, I'll tell you about the various levels of decisions and work which go into a new model. The first thing that the executives of a company do in their preliminary meetings with the top people in styling and engineering is to establish where the car is today, what competition is today, and what it's likely to be in the future. Now, this doesn't just happen. Statisticians and advisors report on what kind of a car the public will want to buy in the future and what price that they will be willing to pay. Let me give you an example. The trend toward the two-door family car was anticipated long before that trend really got going. The station wagon, designed to sell at a popular price, was developed in anticipation of this trend. And the tastes of women, of course, were accounted for more than ever before. The enthusiasm for sports cars was also anticipated in the development of the Thunderbird, which is not intended to be a sports car in the ordinary sense, but more of a personal car with many sports car features to broaden the base of appeal and bring the price down through mass production. Good styling is, after all, one solution to many sales and engineering problems. After price, general design features and engineering specifications have been established by a product planning committee. A package drawing is worked on by the engineers, and you can see one here. It shows the exact location of the engine and chassis components within the car frame. It also gives the height, length, width, and all the other important measurements of the new car. Now, even more important is the total weight of the car. That has to be calculated. And these weight calculations include every item that the car will contain from the engine to the light switch. And from this, the engineers can determine the car's ability to accelerate, its top speed and economy of operation, and this, of course, all helps to determine the size of the engine. Now, there are a few ground rules in designing an automobile which are taken for granted in almost any model. The stylist has to live with the fact that no matter how sleek and rugged his car is. The time will probably come when a tire must be changed or chains must be applied, and then, of course, the wheel has to be accessible. The trend today is toward cars with a low center of gravity. But you have to remember that your car will be driven over bumpy roads and in and out of driveways. There must be adequate clearance between the chassis and the ground. And, of course, there are the human factors, such as adequate headroom. Cars might look much better if we could slough them off, say, in here. But a stylist is interested in combining beauty with comfort and utility. He can't design a product which will produce gasps of delight on the outside and stiff necks on the inside, for example. Now, after the various specifications of the new car have been determined and exacting schedules have been established, I get together with Mr. Walker, who's the vice president in charge of styling at Ford, and Mr. Elwood Engel, his stylist at large, and we plan a program. Following this, I hold a roundtable discussion with all of my styling supervisors and acquaint them with the restrictions. Now, these supervisors include my executive assistant in charge of production styling, the exterior manager, and the manager of the interior department. And they hold more intimate roundtables with the individual stylists under them. The work is divided up in detail, every item, and this includes all exterior surfaces and ornaments, all interiors and all instrument panels, right down to the smallest control switch, are very consciously and thoughtfully designed. Now, one overall consideration is that the styling must be very distinctive. We want qualities which will identify our car as being very different from all the others. When the sketches start coming off the drawing boards, those that have merit are explored on full-size layout made on tops of packaged drawings so that dimensions can be checked. Up to this point, everything has been handled in a two-dimensional medium which only tells a part of the story. To give a quick three-dimensional look, these 3/8 scale models are used. Incidentally, this step and the next one, making full-size clay models, bring one of the rudest shocks to the novice. I know many neophytes have said, I didn't think that my sketch would look like that. But the modelers are pretty excellent craftsmen and keep them out of trouble. As you can see, they make a wooden buck or armature first, and then they cover it with clay. When the full-size clay model is completed, the company executives have a basis for moderating discussions between the engineers, the stylists, and the cost estimators. Now, here is a 3/8 scale model of the XM Turnpike Cruiser, the dream car which will be our hypothetical case history of a car in the process of being designed. Let me point out some of its styling features. Here you notice in the front the impact units. This is a novel and highly original way to approach the bumping surface problem. And superimposed over those surfaces are the functional air intakes that you see here. They have been developed in a way to give maximum breadth and width to the Turnpike Cruiser. Around on the side, starting from the front, you will notice the forward cant of the headlights. This is done to give a feeling of motion to the car and also to increase the length of the highlight, which runs from the front part of the fender back through the car into the projectile-shaped rear quarter and then out to the very distinctive